You have the tech bros that are arguing that, and Elon arguing that, no, this is for the 0.1% of the best and brightest, and the Viveks and David Sacks of the world are saying, we need the best and the brightest to come to this country to work on the technology, or we're going to fall behind China. What people fail to recognize is that the technologists, because we're talking about technologists now, the technologists that are extremely highly competent and sought after in China, they stay in China.
Yes.
Because they are very well taken care of.
Oh.
They become extremely rich by staying home. The same goes for Korea. Those guys that do extremely well in technology, there's no incentive for them to come here and work for Elon at Tesla making $80,000 or $100,000 a year. They become filthy rich by staying where they are.
Yes.
And they're treated like kings.
Yeah.
Same thing for India. You're not getting the best of the best. The reality is this, and this is how I perceive it. The tech bros don't want to pay their employees a lot of money. Are you ready? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to the Matt Kim podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kim, joined by my co-host, Mr. Peter Saddington.
What's up, guys? How do you do?
Welcome to season 6, episode 8.
Oh, thank you. Come again. Oh, guys, can we not joke?
For those that are curious, we are talking about the Indians.
So why are we talking about the Indians, Matthew?
Well, trending in the news this week, and because we recently did the Jew episode the last couple episodes ago, so I didn't want to do another racial episode.
It's
the
not
following
the Jew
episode,
bro. It's not the Jew episode.
Disclaimer, because I always. Quick disclaimer. When we say the
We're not
Jews,
attacking
we don't
people.
mean every single Jew in the world. When we say the Indians, we don't mean every single Indian in the world. We're just talking about the stinky ones. That's it. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way.
Such violence today, guys.
Trending in the news. Okay. Rewind. I did not want to do another race bait episode because we just did one. And if we do one again, it seems like we are racists.
Come on. You're overblowing. You just categorized our last episode as race bait. It's not race bait. We had a conversation that touched on ethnic and cultural nuances in the financial realm.
So if you're gonna race bait people, and then they label you as a racist, then
That they did.
which is fine because I am kind of racist. I own it.
It was at this moment that he knew.
And it's not like a negative racism. I don't have hate for any people.
You can't say it's not a negative racism when you use the word racism, Matt.
I don't have hate in my heart for people.
Oh,
But I do notice patterns. I do notice differences within different cultures and societies and different ethnicities and different culture and different countries. I do notice that some people are just different than other people.
Fair enough. And Matthew, if I can say, are you a well-traveled individual so that you have evidence of these types of patterns that you've noticed over time?
And I have been all over the world.
Oh, okay.
I've spent time with countless different types of communities of people. A lot of the things that I think people of that community would probably agree with. So to say that I'm a racist, stereotypes exist for a reason.
Oh, fair. Okay. Fair enough.
And I don't think just because you say something is stereotypical, I don't even think that's a negative thing. People say, "Oh, Asians are good at math." Like, that's a bad thing. Although we did prove last episode that we're really bad at it. Again, it's just a stereotype.
It's a stereotype.
Just a stereotype. You know, if you say black people like fried chicken and watermelon, I'm like, dude, I love fried chicken and watermelon. It's delicious. There's no other treat I'd rather have on a nice hot summer Georgia day than fried chicken and watermelon. And if you say, oh, black people love fried chicken and watermelon, like, dude, amazing.
Own it. Enjoy it.
I have black friends. I've never invited black friends to my house and say, you want fried chicken and watermelon? I've never had one say, no, I don't like that. They're like, yeah. Give me some.
Oh my gosh, Matt, bro, you were.
So it's okay
It's okay to joke.
to notice these things. It's okay to joke about these things.
Yes.
It's okay to have these discussions, because I truly believe that in order for society to improve, for society to be at peace with one another, instead of trying to force everyone to be the exact same, you start understanding and respecting the differences.
Yes, and
Even if it means that some people smell.
yes, that's exactly right, Matthew. That's it. We see, you and I were born and grew up at a time where we were. And I don't know about you, I'm just going to assume that you had experiences like this, that in middle school and high school, you were called ching chong, you were called chinky whatever. People always did, this stuff, and they speak with a bad Korean accent and stuff like this. We actually never called them racist, ever. Did that ever come out of your mouth? Or did you just look at them and say, like, fuck off, Charlie? You're a douche. Like
Peter's still mad at Charlie, by the way.
Charlie, you said some hurtful things in middle school, mostly in April's class. That hurt me a lot when you said that I was a Chinese ching chong ping pong ball. I'll never forget that. And you asked me whether my name was named after wrenches being thrown down the stairwells. Ching chong tong ting tong wong. I'll never forget it. Scarred for life, guys.
For life.
For life.
For life.
I was like, Charlie, fuck off. My name's Peter.
Will, I think Peter needs a hug. He's like really deeply scarred.
Dude, wrong. No, I mean, my point still stands. We did not consider racist comments and cultural comments in the 80s and 90s as racist. We was just like, that was it. We just made fun of each other, right?
Yeah, there is this push where certain people are like, oh no, you can't talk about that. Like, what? Why?
Because someone's feelings is gonna get hurt. We grew up in an age where sticks and stones may break our bones, but words may never hurt us. Is that what our mamas told us?
And I just want to put out there for pure clarification. Okay, I think this is really important. This is the most important thing to set as context for the entire conversation of today.
Because we're going to be talking about the Indians.
When I say people smell, for me, it is factually true. Because 95% of Koreans have a gene modification where they do not exert body odor. I don't smell. I don't wear deodorant. And when people say, oh, Matt, I can't believe you don't want deodorant. Like, I can't believe you smell so much that you have to put chemicals on your body because you stink. I'm not the stinky one. You're the stinky one. Just want to put it out there. If it's like, oh, Matt, you can't say they smell. Like, no, empirically, it is true because I don't smell. Therefore, when other people smell, I notice.
I'm glad that you say that. What Matt is saying is absolutely true. I have not ever worn deodorant. My wife has not ever worn deodorant. Do you smell, Will?
Nope.
See?
So
95% of Koreans don't smell.
Yeah. So could you consider this a genetic advantage?
We'll get into genetics next week.
Okay, I don't want to go there. Okay, we won't go there. But let's just say this is a genetic disparity.
Yes,
so
for sure.
Koreans have a gene, not all of them, but some of them have
95%.
Most of them, my wife and myself included, have a gene where, in many cases, not only do you not smell, in some cases you don't even sweat.
Yes.
Or rarely sweat. My wife is one of those. She could work out in the hot blazing sun in Atlanta, Georgia on June. No sweat.
I am not a profuse sweater.
It's amazing.
I sweat a little bit, but I'm not a big sweater, and I don't smell.
I'm a knee pit sweater. I sweat in my knee pits.
So again, when I say people smell, I'm allowed to say that because I don't smell.
I would take your argument and I'd change just a little bit here, man. I'd say you can identify that other people smell, not that because you don't smell. It's just because you have an olfactory device called a nose that allows you to smell things, and clearly someone smells a little bit more than what you're used to or what you're accustomed to.
So shifting to the topic of the day, trending in the news and the fight that's on X. I don't know if this is actually a fight on every platform. Is it a fight that's only on X, or are all the platforms seeing the same fight?
I'm only seeing it on X right now. At least that's my matrix.
So the right and the hard right and the tech bros are all up in arms over this idea of H-1B visas.
Yes.
So for those that aren't aware, H-1B visas are visas that you give to international people or foreigners in order to give them visas in order to be able to work and have jobs.
Yes. It's a work visa.
It's a work visa for what they call specialized labor. So they have H-1B visas for cooks. They have one for carpenters. They have one for tech people,
Engineers.
And the big debate is over the H-1B visas for tech people, because the ultra right of MAGA was sold this bill of goods saying that we are going to stop immigration, at least for now, until we get rid of whatever is messed up for the last 2 years, 3 years, and then let's figure it out. Shut it down.
And
That's what they wanted.
Which, if you think about it from a rational and logical sense, if you don't know how to control something or something is you're missing a lot of pieces to it, the best thing to do is stop the flow, right? Just stop the bleeding. I'll put it that way. That's a better analogy. Stop the bleeding. Why is it bleeding? Forget that. Let's just stop the bleeding. So it's very smart and logical consideration from the far right to say it is the smartest thing for us to do to try to figure out this immigration issue to stop the bleeding. I think anybody in their right mind would say, you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
Except not everyone is in that same frame of mind.
So you're saying there are permutations to this far right?
So the tech bro right, which we call the MAGA tech bros now, the Elons, the David Sachs of the world, the Vivek Ramaswamy, the Indian guy that looks like Frankenstein, that's recently been hired to be the underling of David Sachs. These guys are proponents of increasing H-1B visas because their claim is that there are not enough talented engineers in the United States, and therefore they need to increase the amount of people to import, specifically for H-1B visas for tech employees, because they are having a worker shortage. And when they say they want to increase that line, increase the number, they're not saying they want to increase the number of people from Korea or China or Europe. They're specifically saying that they want to bring more people in from India.
This is true. And so why is this particularly such a firestorm? Is it simply because the far right was sold the bill of goods of saying, hey, we're going to stop the bleeding, but now we're going to be choosing this certain class of individual, and they are able to now permeate that wall and come into America? Is that the big issue, or is it the racial cultural differential that's the bigger issue?
This firestorm has become a permutation of every single issue that you mentioned and more.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make is it's really complicated.
It's super complicated.
Right.
Because you have the tech bros that are arguing that, and Elon arguing that, no, this is for the 0.1% of the best and brightest, and the Viveks and David Sachs of the world are saying, we need the best and the brightest to come to this country to work on the technology, or we're going to fall behind China. That's their stance. However, a separate visa program for those individuals actually exists. You have the O1 visa and the EB1 visa.
That's right.
Which is made for people who are highly specialized
Yes.
in certain fields.
Like scientists.
Correct. So this is not that, but they're trying to claim it as such in order to increase the number of people. Because the reality is this, and this is how I perceive it. The tech bros don't want to pay their employees a lot of money.
It's an economic consideration.
If you import a lot of cheap engineer labor, because anyone in tech, I know a lot of people in technology, a lot of people that are hiring, a lot of engineering managers, and they'll all say, we hire the Indians because they work long hours and they're cheap.
They're not wrong.
And if you hire them at a 20% discount, which is actually illegal, if you hire them at 20% discount, then it brings down the industry average of everybody in the field. Therefore, you get to pay American employees less also. And then the argument on the other side is, well, it's because Americans don't focus on STEM. And therefore, we do not have enough employees to fill these jobs.
Well, I could say that's a factually inaccurate argument. We've had more STEM graduates thanks to the women's liberation movements from the 60s and, women's suffrage all the way to women's rights and feminism 3.0. We have more women and more engineers coming out of STEM than in the history of ever. Actually, I feel like I read a report on that literally like 3 or 5 months ago. So I find that to be a non-answer to say that we don't have in America enough top talent. But I would also agree with your sentiment that if we lower the wages overall, then you're going to be reducing the amount of individuals that will want to apply for these jobs because they cannot earn enough money commensurate with their skill levels.
And just to throw an extra fact out there, the tech companies have fired close to 150,000 people this year.
Yep.
So there's no shortage of labor. They're firing them. What they're doing is they're trying to replace them with cheaper labor.
So what you just said sounds like a political statement, right? Replacement, because that's the key word.
Replacement theory.
Replacement theory. So I think the fire starter is, are the tech bros, are they creating provisions, kind of like our last episode, for a particular class of individuals that they get benefits while the rest of us don't?
Well, first, if I was a woman in tech, the women in tech should be the ones leading this charge, actually, because they're the ones getting screwed.
Really?
Because, like you said, there are so many women in technology now. They're not getting jobs because, let's be real, not a lot of engineering teams want women on their team.
Do you remember the old Twitter pics of the before Elon came in? It was like 90% women. Then after Elon came in, you couldn't find a single woman in the picture.
It's a bunch of Indians.
You're not wrong either, bro. You're not wrong.
So that should be one fight that they should. If I were a female tech person, I don't know why they're not getting involved in this because they're the ones actually getting screwed the most.
They only get in the fight if Beyonce is paid $5 million to show up at a concert to talk about it. Remember? It's all about that. It's all about the optics.
So, what was the other question?
Well, I was asking whether is it an economic thing or is it really a racial, cultural differential issue?
Well, right? I think it's both.
So I think here's let me add a little bit of a perspective. I've seen this fire starter. I've seen the flame ups with Elon. I've seen all the people talking about, and suddenly all the memes of the Indian memes coming out. What has been really interesting for me as I've seen all of this stuff on X is there seems to be an overall noticing or a sentiment of that the Indians in corpus, so I'm speaking about all of them because of the Twitters, they look at the Indians as a corpus as a bad thing. So I feel like this small idea of, hey, we need some really talented employees to help fill some really specific niche roles in tech has blown up to be this whole thing of like, we hate the Jeets. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't because my entire X feed is now filled with like these memes of like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I've never seen more Indians taking shits in the middle of like the beach than the last 24 hours, bro. Like,
and for context, you lived in India for 6 months.
Yes, I work with TCS Tata. It's basically Microsoft in India. So I lived in Bangalore, Mumbai, and Hyderabad. So
just want to throw it out there because when we talk about India and people are like, "Oh, you guys don't even know," well, you actually lived there for 6 months. I just want to
as a consultant contractor, yes.
I just want to clear the air there.
Yep, 6 months, 6 solid months of absolute just. Bro.
Well, when you go, you get Delhi diarrhea. That's what they call it, right?
Bro. let me tell you two things. Number one, don't drink the water.
Nope.
Clearly.
And even the bottled water is bad.
Even the bottled water is bad.
You just got to get dehydrated.
Well, I ended up
take like one shot a day.
Long story short,
acclimate.
I was a younger man, and so for me it was just let's huff it. Like just expect that if your stomach starts rumbling, you need to find a bathroom immediately because you can't hold it.
Then why are you so mad at them shitting in the street? Maybe they had to go.
I'm not, brother. You put words in my. I didn't say I'm mad about it. I've just said in the last 24, 48 hours, I've seen more Indians taking craps on beaches in random places, thanks to my X feed and my Matrix, than I've ever noticed before. That's the key word, noticed.
I'm going to tell a story.
I don't understand it, though. Apparently, it's a cultural thing.
I'm going to tell a story. But when I tell the story, it's not every single individual Indian that I'm talking about.
We're just talking about X.
Okay? No, we're talking about Indians. But okay? But Indians, and when we talk about people, there are individuals which can be amazing one-on-one.
Oh, no doubt.
But sometimes there are certain groups of people, when you group them together in a large sum, the experience is a little bit different.
For sure. For sure.
Okay.
The group dynamics completely change everything.
Over here, just a few miles away, is a town called Cumming.
Yes.
And Cumming, Georgia, is kind of this new sprawling area where it used to be a really quiet, white, conservative area. And because the town directly south of it, Alpharetta, got so busy, so expensive, so much urban sprawl in it, that urban sprawl is now moving into Cumming.
Mm-hmm.
Cumming is slightly cheaper than Alpharetta. Alpharetta is known to be an amazing school district,
Yep.
which means it's flooded with Chinese and Indians.
I was about
That's
to say
what
Chinese.
happens.
Chinese, yeah.
And because of the cost of entry into that town, the Indians are now moving into Cumming.
Yes.
There are a lot of Indians in Cumming.
Yes.
But it's historically a very quiet, conservative town.
Yes. And I think what's important to note is that you and I have been in Georgia for decades now. And we noticed these huge migrations of people.
Huge migration.
Like in the 90s, we just saw the beginnings of the Korean melting pot here in Georgia. Then we saw the Chinese come in and the Indians come in, and they moved into the Sugarloaf, the Alpharetta, the Johns Creek, the Duluth area. Now that those things are kind of rising up, I'm giving a little bit more context to your comments. Those are growing in real estate prices and expenses and all that stuff. Now we're seeing the Chinese and the Indians especially move even farther north.
Correct.
And so this is not a racial consideration. We are noticing human people groups moving and migrating in mass. And if I can add, the growth of the Chinese areas has been exponential in the last decade.
Yes.
The Indians, even faster.
Yes, it's
there
crazy.
are entire communities, and I'm not overstating this. All of the thousands of homes in that community are all Indians.
It went from a 90% white school district to a 50% Indian school district in the course of like 5 years.
Yeah, less than a decade.
I didn't know it was that bad.
Some people would consider it bad. Some people consider it good.
I didn't know it was that bad.
It's changed. It's changed dramatically, quickly. We
So-
both agree on that.
On Easter, we saw on the internet that there is a Easter egg hunt for children. And we're like, okay, we're gonna go to this Easter egg hunt, and we're gonna take our young daughter, and it's Easter, it'll be fun, and all of this. And she wore a pretty Easter dress and went to church in the morning, and then went to this Easter egg hunt in the afternoon. And you get there, and it's Easter. There's like Indian people everywhere. We're like, okay, this is not what we expected. Because it's like in a farm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's in a farm. It's not like a public park. It's like a farm, and it's like $10 or $5 to do it. And we show up there, and they take all the kids, and you line up. And the starter says go, and the kids go out and they look for all the plastic Easter eggs, and there's a little treats in there, maybe candy, maybe a little toy, whatever. So we get in line, and the person goes, go! And everyone goes running forward.
Yeah.
And my daughter, she was like a little over a year and a half. She comes running out there, and we're like, oh, yeah, maybe she'll find an Easter egg, and we're really excited for her. And the Indian ladies, they're like knocking the kids around, pushing them out of the way, because they need to get the most eggs possible. It's for the kids. They're sitting there picking up all the eggs, throwing them in their dresses, and picking them around and walking around. I'm like, dude, what the hell is going on here? It's a children's event. The average age of the kid is like 4 years old. But for this community of these ladies, which was a lot of them, they're like, no, we paid our $5 for our Easter egg hunt. We're going to get our candy's worth.
We got to get Mass Effect, baby. They paid.
and they are pushing the kids out of the way, and my daughter's about to go grab one. They come running in, grab it in front of her. I'm like,
Really?
what is going on
That's
here?
just rude.
Extremely rude.
That's just rude, bro.
No concept of order. No concept of social order. It's like, forget this kid that we don't know. We don't care. My goal is that I want more eggs. And it doesn't matter that it's Easter egg hunt for children. I need to get it. And I'm like, I'm never coming back to coming.
So can I tell you a pattern that I've noticed? And I'll give a little bit more context because I feel like
I'm a racist.
I feel like I'm about to tell a story. I feel like I'm about to tell a story that I'm going to get in trouble for again. But you know what? Here we go. So,
Quick asterisk right there. Feels like I'm not going to do that again.
yeah, but here I go. Here I go. Guys, so I have lived in India for 6 months. I've been there. I work with Tata, TCS. They're like the big Microsoft that I just said. They're like the Samsung to Korea. Like everything runs off Tata. People don't realize Tata makes computers. They make cars. They make silverware. They make tables. They make everything. Like just like the Samsung. So I did a contract with them. It was an agile consulting opportunity with them with multiple teams across Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and I will tell you, Matthew, that the number one takeaway from my 6 months in India was that culture has a scarcity mindset. Do you know what that means? A scarcity mindset. And this is just my opinion. A guy who was there a decade and a half ago, younger man, ignoramus, fine. But when I came back and I told my wife about all this experience, I just said the number one thing that I've amalgamated from this culture is a scarcity mindset. And what I mean by that is that by default, they live in a world where everything they believe is scarce. There is no abundance. Like in America, I think you would be hard pressed to find an individual or person in America that has a scarcity mindset. You can be homeless and have an iPhone. You can be homeless and be given an EBT card of $5,000 on it. Like in America, like you've seen really chunky and overweight homeless people. It's like, how are you getting fed? But in India, living there, riding around on a 125cc autobike, that's what they call them there, autobike. Number one, it's managed chaos. No one obeys any traffic rules. The only thing that you obey is the cow. The cow comes in, like you stop for the cow. You worship the cow. You eat the poo, right? But you will not stop for a red light, but you'll stop for a cow. That's number one. Number two, this is the only country that I've visited many, only country where I saw starving people and I saw dead people on the side of the streets. There is a carelessness, unfortunately, in so much of that culture. And you might say, Peter, you're sorry. No, I'm telling you what I saw. I've been to Korea, Japan, all over Asia, China. I never saw a dead body in Korea. Have you?
Never.
I've never seen a starving body in Japan, in Tokyo. I've never seen a starving body or a naked child that's, I think, is dead in China, Shanghai. But I saw them in Hyderabad. I saw them in Bangalore. And so why does all this context matter? Your experience with those women, they have a scarcity mindset. They think everything's scarce. They need to get everything and grab everything. And you might say, well, Peter, maybe it's because of their upbringing. Maybe it's because of their culture. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that when I lived in India, I saw two things, a scarcity mindset and deep poverty.
Well, would it be fair to say that the America that we used to be, the America that we aspire to be, and that a lot of us want us to get back to, is a high trust society?
Yes.
I live in an area that is a high trust society. If I leave my car door locked, I'm not worried that someone's going to break into my car. If I leave something out, I'm not worried that someone's going to steal my Amazon package. If anything, they're going to return it to the rightful person, and they will go out of their way to make sure that I get it.
Yes.
Because I live in an area that is a high trust society. India is normalized and almost elevates the people who scam.
Yes, that's a big part of their economy. Yes.
Therefore, everyone is always on edge. everyone is always distrustful of the people around them, and the people that you do business with or the people that are considered your friends, you have to worry about them the most because they can take advantage of you, which is the normalized behavior. So they live in a very low trust society.
That's another way of putting it. Yes, they live in a low trust society and a scarcity mindset, man, where it's like I've seen moments when I was in India when they had the food and they would share it together. Like, of course, they're using their hands because, no one uses utensils there. But the amount of aggressive grabbing of food was just like, not only is it not appealing for me to partake in this with you guys because you guys are all throwing your hands around, but you're grabbing it so aggressively. Like, the food's not going to walk away. Like, who's going to steal your food here? Like, bro, like, aren't we among colleagues and friends? Like, didn't we just have 5 meetings together at the corporation and now we're having beer and food? Like, why are you guys so aggressive with the food? And it was always this, it was always this like me first, me first, me first. And I think if we were, this isn't everybody, but it was enough where it was like, you know what, this makes me uncomfortable. Like, I don't enjoy being within this cultural nuance. And maybe, again, it's because I'm Asian looking and whatever, and maybe that caused some bias or what have you. But it was pretty substantial. It left a mark on me in terms of the amount of poverty, again, and the amount of self-interest and scarcity mindset in India was very, very obvious to me.
India is the number one country of importing people into the United States.
Currently, right now.
Currently. It's been like that for years.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
You mean the legal means?
Correct.
Yes.
There are more legal immigrants from India today, actually double the amount there was 3 years ago.
Yes.
So the amount of people coming from India grow actually almost exponentially. It's over 1 million come from India every year. And right now, America is running into a social crisis, a cultural crisis, where they're trying to figure out how to get back to being a high trust society, more conservative values, more family oriented. And you take this and you throw in a huge group of people that come from a low trust society and you put them into these kind of more affluent areas and it's creating chaos everywhere. And that, I think, is why that there are people on the hard right. They're like, no, maybe we should pause in this whole India thing for now.
So would that, you've used some terminology in today's podcast that, I'm not correcting you. I just think it's a little aggressive sometimes. But to be fair and to be 100% honest with everybody out there, I am also a little sensitive right now too. So I'm not pulling any punches, guys. I'm gonna let you know. Like, I'm a little sensitive too. Because we want to be fair about what we talk about because these are real. You're not lying to me. I know that you had this experience. You know that I had this experience. We got receipts. Like, we're not lying. We're not over exaggerating this stuff here. This is just what we see. And so, I think for us as social commentators, the question is, and at least this is where I'm sitting, what line do you sit on? Do you sit on a, hey, stop the bleeding, period, full stop? Or is it okay to have provisions for other individuals or certain select class of people to come in? Where do you sit, Matt? Do you think it's just right now everything's crazy and we just need to stop the bleeding?
I do think we need to stop the bleeding. I think that things are such a mess right now. And it's similar as what they're trying to propose with the budget, which is the federal budget, which is they want to increase it because they need new programs in order to fix problems. I'm like, okay, no.
You mean the programs that didn't work previously?
What you need to do is you need to shut the whole thing down, figure out what's actually wrong, and if you say you can fix it, great, fix it. Fix it first.
Yeah.
And once you've proven that you can fix it, and you say, do you know what? I've been competent. I've shown my worth. I've shown that I'm able to do the things I promised to do. We need more workers.
Yeah.
Great. Let's have a conversation now.
Yeah.
Don't ask for more shit when you haven't done your part yet.
Yep.
I think that's so fair, so logical. And people are like, no, like you need to solve this problem first. Like, no, there's an order of business.
Yes.
You can't just start band-aiding solutions without fixing core issues.
I think it's important. If you have water in your basement, you turn off the water.
Yes.
You don't keep the water running.
And let's just put...
Yeah.
Although I did see the infomercial of that the patch that you put on the wall and it stops anything. I'm like, bro, that thing's sick.
Yeah, you can keep the water running.
Yeah.
Actually, the patch is so good, you should actually poke holes.
What's that patch called, Will?
Just so you can see if it still runs. You're like, yo, let's see if this thing works. No, it's true. Like if your if your basement's underwater, you stop the water, you stop the bleeding, which is the most rational thing. And I think what's interesting is that I think part of this fire starter is it's Elon, the savior of the world.
Yes.
The great Messiah, our great tech bro, God on high. I feel like he might end up becoming eaten by his own followers in this because, like, he's supposed to be the savior of the alt-right, right? But now he's letting in these Indians, these people. So what's the dissonance?
And people say, well, it's easy. It's not easy for these people to get in, that there's a huge process and a program. But the reality is, and we've known it for years, and people have been talking about this for years, is that the whole program itself is fraudulent. Obama started this program. And that there are agencies and brokers, an entire industry in India that helps people get their family members here. They fake documents. They fake their credentials.
Yes.
They fake their degrees. They come here. They learn on the job. And like, no, we need the best and the brightest because we need qualified workers. Well, that's not what you're getting.
You're not.
You're not at all. I've never spoken to an engineering manager in Silicon Valley going, oh, yeah, we get the best and brightest from India. No, that's just objectively not true. And anyone that's telling you that is either ignorant and they don't know, or they're just blatantly lying to you, which is just as bad. And the tech bros that are leading our society at this very moment, they are lying straight to your face. You want to say something?
I do, man. But like,
a lot of these tech companies, and not only do they import Indian labor, because they actually don't need to import it if they didn't want to, right? Because most people actually work in decentralized teams. People are all over the world. They do that perfectly well. Actually, if there's talent they really want, they just stay in the country of origin and they work together remote. There's no problem with that.
there is really no need for them to be coming in our borders.
They only bring them in because it fuels that auxiliary parallel economy that they're all benefiting from.
What you said, I think I want to say two things. The first thing I want to say is the machine behind the entire visa application is a hundreds of maybe probably billion-dollar industry. And I don't think I'm over-exaggerating here because I've seen the underbelly of that when I was in India. There are in America, we have recruiting firms. You can find your Randstad, recruiting firm on the corner over here, right? In India, they have those in India, but they're not recruiting firms. They're how can we scoot? You pay me $5,000, whatever the price is. I can ensure we can scoot you around every legal framework and make sure that you can get, fast tracked. Like I've seen it, so it exists. It's a huge industry. Huge. And it's the fact that it's so huge tells you the malfeasance that goes behind it. Like, why is there so much money behind this helping people circumvent our laws? Like, that's crazy. Like if you were the king, if America had a king, the king would look at this and say, you guys are circumventing our laws to get into our country. And it's like $1 billion enterprise over there. Shut it down. Number two, I thought about this for a second, but I'm going to say it. As someone who has, let's just say, seen thousands of resumes of nearshore, offshore applicants, I will tell you, I have I can't, I'm lying now. I can't say almost. I have never been impressed with a single Indian applicant who was applying for a highly specialized technical position. It was not that it was the full package. They lacked the sophistication. They lacked the communication ability. They lacked that one nuance. They lacked the maturity. They lacked the ability to functionally decompose their idea. I've never hired one, Matt. I paused to say that before because I was searching through my soul and I was like, have I actually hired? And the answer is I never was impressed and I've never actually hired one from India because they were the better choice between the options I had here stateside.
What people fail to recognize is that the technologists, because we're talking about technologists now, the technologists that are extremely highly competent and sought after in China, they stay in China.
Yes.
Because they are very well taken care of.
Oh.
They become extremely rich by staying home. The same goes for Korea. Those guys that do extremely well in technology, there's no incentive for them to come here and work for Elon at Tesla making $80,000 or $100,000 a year. They become filthy rich by staying where they are.
Yes.
And they're treated like kings.
Yeah.
Same thing for India. You're not getting the best of the best. You're getting the people that themselves in their own countries, they didn't want them. And now we're arguing that we need to bring more of them in when we have qualified people here. You just don't want to pay them more.
That's the third thing, is that I find it to be a complete farce. We have the most intelligent engineering individuals on the planet in America, period, full stop, period, full stop. No doubt. Now, is the price tag of a senior Java architect $380,000? Absolutely, and they're worth every penny. The problem is most companies aren't willing to pay $300,000 for a senior architect who can do everything under the sun. And so they're willing to pay $85,000 for someone who has a resume and it looks like it, but it also looks like it was ChatGPT-ized, if you know what I mean.
But the argument is not coming from those medium, small-size companies saying we need more laborers. It's for the big companies that can afford to pay the $300,000 price tag that are saying we don't want to pay it. And the reality is the companies of the world like Google, who 10 years ago, if you were a software engineer and you got an offer from Google, that was like, oh my gosh.
Dude, I applied to Google. I got rejected.
My life is set. I get to work for Google.
Yeah.
The best don't want to work for Google anymore. Why? Because all filled with low-level Indian engineers. They don't want to be associated with that anymore. They ruined their own culture, and they want to use those same mentalities and tactics that they ruined the culture of their own countries and roll that out into how they run America, which is bullshit because you have yet to prove that you can do it well, but yet you want to do it at a larger scale. It's the whole problem of Kamala and failing up.
Yes.
Have you developed good technologies? Yes. Have you built a shit culture and failed miserably at it? Yes. Two things can be true at once.
That's true. That's true.
And-
So this rhetoric from you, Matt, seems pretty, if I can go to the extreme, pretty isolationist and somewhat nationalistic of you to say. It sounds like you're, dare I say, America and Americans first?
I think that living here, my family is here, my parents are here, my child is born here, will be raised here. I want America to be the best country possibly in the world. Why? Because this is where I live. This is where I've set my roots. This is where I will continue to live. And you notice the tech oligarchs trying to play God with our lives. And you're like, no, like that's not a good idea. Because they don't care. They're clearly not American first. Because if they were America first, they'd be trying to figure out how do we help the education system? How do we help the people around us? How do we raise up people that may be younger and how do we let them grow? Instead of bringing in Indian engineers that are learning on the job anyway, just so that we can pay them less.
So it's actually not an Indian-specific issue.
But they want specifically Indians.
Why?
Well, okay, now we're going back to the Jew talk. Because
But why?
Israel is invested heavily into the growth and economy of India. They are extremely incentivized to see the economy and the growth of Indians grow. And somehow they are the number one we are the number one importer of Indian labor in the world now. Somehow, there are 1.5 billion of them. They keep on showing up, and we keep on having Indian CEOs, and all the CEOs and the Viveks, and even Usha Vance, who is JD's wife. They're all what do you call it? The Brahmin caste.
Yes.
They're all Brahmin,
Which is the highest caste.
highest caste.
Yes.
And they're all bringing tech laborers only from that one certain region of the country. When they say they're going to import Indians, okay, if you're Indian, let me tell you something. They're not talking about all Indians.
Nope. If you're from the South, nope, not getting it.
They
Because you're
only
a lower caste of people.
They're only talking about the Indians that are associated with their friends and their family and the network of people.
Yeah.
They're not trying to bring all Indians in. They're just trying to bring in their crony friends.
Well, yes, from the same class of people. Right.
So it's not, because I recently found out that Indians are really, that Indians also have a huge divide between themselves. I recently found out how segregated themselves are.
Oh man, bro, I could tell you stories, bro. Like some of the deepest.
I thought all Indians loved each other.
Oh no,
Like,
no, dude. I saw.
Which is stupid because of 1.5 billion. Of course they'd be separated.
Yeah.
That was stupid on my part.
I know.
Ignorant,
Fair enough.
ignorant.
But I have to share. Like I saw some of the most. I wouldn't call it racist because we're in India. Everyone's Indian, right? Classist. That's it. I saw some of the most blatant classism, if that's a word, in India when I lived there. It was clearly you will not talk to or engage with this person because they're a lower class. Like the energy was real. Like you would see people walking and one class of person would move out of the way for the other class of person. It was just an unsaid rule. You don't walk on the, you got to jump in the street where all the shit is and they can walk on the sidewalk type of deal. I saw people who are basically starving, sitting literally next to like food truck vendors, and I'm forgetting the word. That's like the food vendors. Anyway, it's like, bro, you could just give him some food, like it's no scratch off your back. I mean, it's all coming out of the same bucket, where who knows what's ever
Schlop.
It's like it's all coming out of the same bucket of schlop. Like you could hand that guy some curry, right? You could hand him a bowl of rice. You could care for your fellow man. Zero of that. And so, absolutely, 100%. I mean, there is a caste system that is real, very real. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that if you're part of the higher caste society, you have many more perks available to you than others, for sure.
Can I ask you a really racist question and prompt?
Sure.
Awesome. Would you rather live in a neighborhood with a lot of first-generation Indians or first-generation Chinese?
Bruh.
Oh man, you and I know too much. That's the problem.
That's why it's a
You
good
and
question.
I know too much.
And we could say maybe like Jews or Mexicans or whatever else, but actually they're not the worst to live around.
Yeah.
The Chinese, living around a lot of Chinese or living around a lot of Indians are actually significantly worse than the other groups. Although maybe you may want to not like other groups more. It's just I've lived around every single one of them.
Yeah. There's a lot of stereotypes that are going to be kind of flung out here, but I will say like with the with the Hispanics, like they'll leave their car in the middle of their lawn on blocks.
I don't mind living around Hispanics.
Right. No, just track with me here.
They just like to party and they always invite you over to join them.
Bro, I was at a taco stand the other day and I was picking up some tacos for my wife and I was waiting there at the bar and the homie next to me, he was like, "What's up, man?" And he just bought me a Corona. Just like the night, like anyway. So I'm okay with the Mexicans leaving their cars out in the middle of the lawn on bricks. It's the Chinese families and the Indian families where it's so hard to communicate.
And we're talking
this.
about first generation,
Like first generation.
like seriously, like off the boat, and
like off the boat.
There are neighborhoods where there's just an immense amount of them.
It's the inconsideration.
That's it.
But which one is
it?
Because I live in a Hispanic area.
Yeah,
And I have neighbors that party hard.
yeah,
But every time before they party, they come over and let me know they're going to party. And
it's very polite.
yeah. And they was like, okay, just let us know if it gets out of hand.
And if you want, come over for a beer.
Yeah. And we've been over there to party with them. So
That's the word.
Yeah.
Will actually made up for all of the shit that he did earlier today. That's the word. Their lack of consideration.
Yes. Okay.
Like,
So
that's
you're
it.
ducking the question. Would you rather live around a bunch of Indians or a bunch of Chinese?
Oh man, that's really tough. I think if I'm Chinese.
You would rather live around them or not live around them? What you just gotta say it.
Oh, I'd rather live around the Indians than the Chinese.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I did not see that coming.
You don't think? Why do you say that?
Well,
Why are you on the opposite side?
I don't know if I'm on the opposite side. I haven't thought about it.
That's what he's asking me. Something he hasn't even thought of, bro.
I want to know why you think that.
The reason is because the Indian families that I've engaged with, and I've been into their house, I've broken bread with them, I've sat down with their families. Like, the inside of their house, very Indian, very smelly, very fresh off the boat type of stuff. Messy as all get out, probably have never mopped or washed anything. But at the same time, they live a life that's simple. And there's not a lot of extraneous garbage or junk. They don't have extra TVs. They don't have all the, like, there are some rooms, it's like, dude, this room is dead empty. You know what I'm saying? But with
they live more frugal.
Frugal, yes. So that is why I appreciate that, because it's like I go in there, it's like, dang, this entire wall's empty. Like, you're not using anything. It's like, we don't need it. You know? It's okay. You know? Whereas the Chinese that I've engaged with, their houses are like dumps. Like biohazard. It's like, I think I saw a dead chicken over there. It's probably been there a long time. Like that type of shit. So I'm just pulling from like my history of hanging out with first generation Indians and first generation Chinese, and I'm going back, way back, and I'm thinking, which one was cleaner? The Indians were. Which one was dirtier and less considerate? The Chinese were. And the way that the Chinese first generation used their land, zero respect, dumping shit all over the place, type of thing. Whereas at least the Indians kept the outside of their home relatively groomed, but their inside was just a mess.
So,
oh man, you're like bringing me way back. I'm bringing up traumatic experiences here, guys.
I think for me, because I've lived around both, and I'm the type of guy that I talk to my neighbors. You know, I like to engage with my neighbors. I like to talk to them. I usually know who all my neighbors are wherever I live.
Yeah, you are that guy.
I'm that guy. So I've had time to speak with all. And having one neighbor is not the worst. Actually, I've never lived in a pocket of like all of them where I'm just flooded by them. I did live in Chinatown or near Chinatown in New York for a while. And that's pretty miserable.
I can understand that.
That's pretty miserable. It's pretty dirty. It's pretty out there.
Yeah.
I've never lived in Indiatown, but you know, I told you I'm never moving to Cumming, so I don't have to worry about
we actually have a pretty good amount of Georgians that are from Cumming that listen to this podcast.
I like Chinese food better.
So you guys let us know in the comments if we're talking. I've been to a community in Cumming. It's like it was thousands upon thousands of Indian houses, bro. Like, so I know we're not lying.
I know that if I go to a park and it's a bunch of Chinese or a bunch of Indians, I'm still pretty annoyed, regardless. In all fairness, Koreans aren't the best. They're kind of annoying too.
Well, not really.
A little bit.
We're
more judgy because we are.
We are judgy, no doubt. But Koreans, I would say, out of all of the cultures, including Japanese as well, we're the least. We have the least chance of calling attention to ourselves in negative or culturally stereotypical ways.
Well, the Korean community in the United States is so small.
What are you talking about, bro? Why are you
Korean
wronging me?
Korean community
I
is
think
like
there are so many other Asian communities that are better than Koreans. I think Filipinos are friendlier inherently. I think
race hate.
I think Vietnamese are friendlier.
Really?
Yeah, I think I go by a lot of experience, personal experience at least.
So you would say that the Korean culture is not.
Koreans are pretty cutthroat.
Oh well.
But Koreans
say less.
Koreans have a tendency to live in Korean pockets. That's the majority of the population. So,
but Chinese and Indians do that too.
Yeah, but they're everywhere. Versus Koreans are really specific to certain areas of the country, and within those areas of the country, to very small areas.
I wonder what the demographics are.
Well, the Korean population is only 0.5% of the country.
What's
it's
the
tiny.
What's the Indian versus Chinese? So I want to know. I'm curious now.
The Indian population is large.
Where, in Georgia?
No, in America. I was looking at America.
It's pretty large.
Oh,
There are a
I
lot.
know it's
I mean-
large.
I
I know
mean,
it's larger than Koreans
you
for
have
sure.
1.2 million Indian visas given out every year.
Yeah, it's a
So
lot.
there's a lot. That's more. There are more people come into the country from India on a yearly basis than the totality of Koreans living in America.
So
Period.
I can see. Let's kind of set. I want to ask this question. If we extract ourselves one level up, like someone who's ignorant, who's listening to this podcast, could come away from this podcast saying, Matt just hates Indian and Chinese people and whatever people. You know, he just sounds like he doesn't like them. Wait, hold on, let me finish. He doesn't like them, and it sounds like, you know, he doesn't want them to enter our country. So here's my question. Matt, are you concerned about the tapestry of the American populace over time? Does that concern you, that the tapestry of America is changing, and in many cases changing rapidly over time? Is that an issue for you?
Just because I don't want to live in the hood doesn't mean I hate black people.
Fair enough.
I think that's important.
Why? That sounded very liberal of you to say it that way.
Well,
Because there are Korean hoods, there are Chinese hoods.
yeah, Chinatown's just as bad. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to live in the ethnic centers of
The ghettos.
of all these peoples because they tend to not assimilate. I'm not saying you have to assimilate. I'm as Korean as it gets, right? I'm pretty Korean. My wife is Korean. My kid my kid only speaks Korean.
That's good, 잘했어.
And I'm like, speak some English. Daughter?
No.
She's 2 years old.
So there's over 5 million Indians in America. There's almost 5 million. There's a little less than 5 million Chinese in America, and there's 2 million Koreans.
That can't be true. There's
way more.
There's got to be way more.
There's way more.
No way.
There's way more.
No way.
Way more.
No way. That's like saying China has 1.4 billion people. No, they don't. China has under 800,000 people.
That's a discussion for another day. Populations.
800,000.
Trust
I mean,
me.
800 million.
I would put money on this.
He did the if
So-
all
so
people
wait,
live around
you mean
major cities.
800,000?
Dude, there's no way.
No,
There's
800
no,
million. 800
Oh.
million.
800 million. There's no way China has over 1 billion people. Do you know how many people they've killed? Do you know how many people died during the lockdowns? Dude, their numbers are way off.
His theory is that if most people live in metropolitan areas and cities, if you calculate the population of all the major cities, that it should be somewhat close, at least relatively close to the total population number. But if you calculate the population of all the major cities in China, and same thing for India,
Same thing for India.
that it comes out to only like 25%, meaning that you're saying that 75% of the population lives in rural areas,
The countryside.
which doesn't make sense. I also think that he's not calculating for urban sprawl.
But I would put money on it if we could find the right, accurate, which is impossible, censor who actually does the real census and says, hey, there's actually this many people in China. I'm sure it's not 1.4 billion or whatever they're saying.
I look at.
No way.
I believe India
No way.
has a digital ID system that people need to vote, and therefore through that digital ID system is how they've calculated how many. Because everything that you have, all your perks, welfare, jobs, like literally everything that you have is linked to the system, and therefore everyone. That's how they calculate, and that's how they run their election. Crazy enough, India, with close to 2 billion people, 1.5 billion people, they settle their presidential election in one day,
24 hours. Yep.
24. But it's because they all have digital ID.
So are they more Chinese digital ID than Chinese digital ID?
I don't know what that even means.
You know what? I almost feel like this from this conversation, Matt. I almost feel like India's flying under the radar. In so much that India might be a bigger issue on the global stage than any of us ever imagined.
I think they are moving everywhere. They're infiltrating all levels of society. I think that they have taken all the CEO positions of all the technology companies.
That's a funny meme. You guys should check that out. I saw this meme of this Indian guy who was like tweeting like, "What are you talking about all this India stuff? Check out this list of all the CEOs of all the American companies that are run by Indians. Like, we're the best." It's like, actually, you just proved the point that most of our corporations are run by Indians.
It's funny. I think I saved that list you're
Bro,
talking about.
like, really? And when I saw that list, I was actually a little shocked. I was like, holy cow.
Well,
all of these
India's going to have the biggest middle class boom in the next 10 years out of the rest of the world.
The CEO of Google, CEO of Microsoft, CEO of Adobe, CEO of IBM, CEO of Chanel, CEO of FedEx, CEO of Palo Alto Networks is Indian.
These are some huge companies.
And they are arguing that for the sake of prosperity, in order so that America can beat China on this next tech wave generation, that the only way to solve it, says Mr. Indian guy, is to import more Indians. It's just coincidental that we just need more Indians. It just happens to be that the Indian guy wants more Indian people. Just coincidental. Nothing to see here. At the same exact breath, they fired and let go 150,000 Americans.
Well, clearly, all of the Venezuelans, all of the Nicaraguans, all of the Nigerians, and all of the Africans that are coming in through the southern border are not going to be our... Well, sorry, they are doctors, lawyers, and scholars. I apologize. They're not going to save us. So I guess the Indians are the ones that are going to save us. They're the brown savior of our corporate future. Is that what you're saying? Because we can't hire waspy people, right? White Anglo-Saxon, Americans. We can't do that. We have to import the brown people to save us. Is that how it's working?
Indians also have a historic record of voting extremely liberal. They also have been involved in technology for years. We all blame big tech for stealing the last election, for censoring for people, for inputting in all these crazy woke ideologies in an industry that's heavily Indian. And we're like, we should get more because we want more freedom. Like, what? Wait, what?
Wait, how does importing more brown people increase freedom?
You want more freedom, therefore you want to give the tech people more of the people that helped censor you. It's like, that doesn't make any sense, guys.
Why don't I just punch myself in the face? How about that?
But apparently, this is the argument.
I just punched myself in the face.
This is the argument from the David Sachs, the new crypto and AI czar.
It seems like if I may, it seems like a lot of Trump's extracurricular cabinet is starting to fail us. You want to comment on that?
I don't like a lot of his picks.
Yeah, what's going on there?
I don't know.
I mean, we were writing this. We were talking about episodes before this trauma wave, right? Of trauma and then
the first wave of Trump cabinet picks were all the AIPAC picks.
Yeah, and then they started getting shunted off to the sides.
Yeah, the first picks were the AIPAC picks. So people that are stand with Israel no matter what. The ones that Iran needs to pay for being complicit to Palestinian attacks on October 7th, including Lee Stefanik, who we've talked about, who is, literally counts our days and days since October 7th. So that was the first wave of Trump picks. And then the second wave of Trump picks were all the tech bros and the technologists and the people that actually want more immigration. And we're like, wait, what happened to this America First agenda? Where we're like, let's fix the country first and worry about everything else after. That was the plan. That's what everyone bought into. No more war in Ukraine. No more war in Israel. No more importing labor and figuring out how to use American labor. This was the bill of goods that everyone was sold.
Oh, are you saying we're getting swashbuckled here?
It's still early. Maybe we don't see it. And everyone says, trust the plan, trust the plan. And in my mind, trust the plan is the new version of trust the science.
So, do you feel like, because I think Elon's getting a lot of heat right now, do you think Elon and his DOGE is actually going to be effective? Or do you think this is going to end up being a whole bunch of nothing burger?
Well, I think that idea of Doge, because we've made fun of it, Doge.
Yes.
We've made fun of it before. And I don't think people realize what Doge actually is. What is Doge?
It is a non-elected group of tech bros who are supposed to optimize and improve the government.
They are not a government agency.
Nope.
They will not become a government agency because that requires congressional approval and maybe even constitutional amendment. So you can't just create a new agency. Okay. So they're not government. They don't work for the government. They don't. What are they actually?
They're. I saw one article that said that they're essentially a think tank, an expensive think tank.
They're essentially consultants.
Yeah, that's what a think tank is. Really expensive, $1,500 an hour consultants.
I really hope Anderson comes into our company and makes our company better.
Yeah.
I really hope PwC shows up and makes our company better. I really hope EY shows up and makes my company better. No, it never works that way.
No, it doesn't.
You just pay a lot of money. They give you a lot of advice that nobody takes.
But sometimes we end up with these great documents called like Agenda 30 and stuff like that.
Correct.
That's cool.
Maybe they'll write some reports. I don't know, because they actually don't have any power to do anything.
No authority.
They have zero authority.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is a show.
It's a farce.
They physically cannot actually enact anything. They can't actually fire anybody. They can't actually cut any budget because they don't have the ability or power to do so.
And most importantly, they cannot hold anybody accountable because they don't have any authority.
And the official division has not even been formed, but yet they have a website. They're talking about they're going to have a podcast. I'm like, holy shit. They're literally putting the government as theater, which we always said.
We always knew this.
I know, but
now
this is so blatant.
Bro, it's
just a spit and slap in your face.
We've moved past the veil, Matt. We are beyond idiocracy. Like, come on, please.
And the logo of Doge is a cartoon
Of a dog.
It's a cartoon dog. This is the agency that everyone thinks is gonna save America. A cartoon dog.
Yes, Matt. Yes, we're in the timeline. This is the timeline that God has chosen for us.
And the first thing that Doge decides to collectively comment on is we need more Indians. You can't make this shit up.
You had to bring it back, bro.
What are we living in?
We need a poo.
Dude, it's funny because
Dude, The Simpsons called this.
I grew up in an area when I was young, until I was about 14 years old, that had zero Indians. I've never met an Indian person in my life until I was 14 years old when I moved to Ohio. And then all of a sudden, there was a lot of Indians in Ohio, so I had a lot of Indian friends. Vishnu, awesome. Right? I had a lot of Indian friends.
That was his version of it's okay, guys.
I know one. I know one. I swear. I swear I know one.
I swear I have a black friend.
I swear I know
His
one.
name is Reggie.
Yeah, I saw.
Actually, Reginald.
Yeah. Dante. And okay. So me and Vishnu, we're really close. We spent a lot of time. Right?
Alex, I'll take $500 for shit that didn't happen.
But growing up, I never knew an Indian before. The only Indian I ever knew in my life, because I grew up watching Simpsons, was Apu. I thought that's what all Indians were, because I was a child. But I've never physically met one before.
But Apu
14.
Apu ain't that off, though. He's directionally correct.
I actually really liked the Apu.
Yeah, I love the Apu.
And then I moved to Ohio and I met my first Indians. Like, oh my gosh, they real.
Because
we didn't have internet then.
They're real.
I don't have like
live.
Indian books.
They
like,
live.
where do I see Indians at? You know?
That's great. That's fresh. So you have nothing against Indians, is what you're saying.
I have nothing against Indians.
But you do say they stink.
They do smell.
It's their diet,
In
man.
all fairness, black people smell. They smell. All right? If you go down Stone Mountain, it stinks. White people also smell.
Everyone smells except for the people who don't have the genes.
Which is why we're allowed to say it. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.